Hey guys, I'm back. So I tried to record this once and the audio was really glitchy and weird. So I'm hoping that it works better this time. I've shut down some other things on my computer. Let's see how this goes. Maybe that take just wasn't the take I was supposed to use. But either way, I am here. As promised, I told you guys that I would be coming back. So here I am doing it again. And I am coming back with a video request that we had. So the last live that I did, for those of you who have not seen that, please go back and watch or comment underneath of it with any sort of requests or anything like that that you are curious about. It's been a while since I've been steadily uploading, I know, and I am wanting to come back on here and get at least like a video a week, I'm thinking ideally. That's my goal. So whether a live or a pre-recorded like this, that's what I would like to do. So with that said, one of the ideas that I had was they wanted, like, all of you guys wanted to see, well, not all of you, but a lot of you wanted to see the things in my background. Now, a while back, I made a what's in my background, like, show and tell video. It was a live and it was very rambly. And so it's hard to see everything. But I've also gotten other things since then, I'm sure, and things have been moved around in the background and such. But probably one of the main things that I get asked a lot on this channel, especially since we've moved into this house, is what's that in the background? And first of all, like, please be more specific. Like, do you have a texture? Do you have a color? Do you have a shape? What, portion of the screen is it on? That kind of thing. So I will start this off by saying if there is something in the background that was not addressed in the previous live, and you would like to know more about it, by all means, comment down below or on that live, either way, and I will try and pull it up front and have a little chat about it. I know that it is a point of curiosity for a lot of people, so I have no problem talking about that. So I do have a series on my Patreon that is sort of a sidestep to this, that's called Bless Your Hearth, which is like a southern pun on like bless your heart. But it's basically like a heartfelt show and tell where, like, I bring something forward. I talk about how I came to have it and like how it came in my life and the benefits of having it in my house and maybe how I use it magically or non-magically. That sort of thing around it, like the story of it, basically the essence of it. And I talk about that. I've already done one on there for my cauldron, and I think I did my staff as well on there. So, but the staff is off screen right now. It's like over here off screen. So is the cauldron. But yeah, so if you guys are curious about that, and the cauldron is like that big one that you guys may have seen in some of the altar pictures. But yeah, if you're curious about those are already done and on Patreon. But for now, I'm going to focus on these via this. And yeah, so the first one I decided to address is one that actually a lot of people ask about. And I don't think that I've ever formally explained. It sneaks into a lot of like my altar pictures on Instagram and TikTok. I've had questions about it, and lots of other social platforms, like, even in here, I'll get it, right? So I was like, yeah, let's do that one first, because that's definitely the one that out of all of those that are mentioned gets the most attention. So what I'm going to be talking about today, obviously you can see by the title, the hooded statue, is the hooded statue right here. Now, some of you thought that there were two, and I'm going to specify before I move this and say that this one is actually the reflection in the mirror of this statue, which I like, and you'll understand why in a second. But yeah, so there's not two, there is one. And So what you're seeing as in multiples is actually just, it's the reflection. And I've also had people say that they see things in this mirror all the time. And well, good, you should. That's my journeying mirror. That means it's working. But yeah, so let me just go ahead and pull this forward and not hit that candle. So obviously she has a necklace on her right now. I'll talk a bit about the necklace, but this is my representation for the Norse goddess Hel. Now, before you at me and are like, that's not very Norse, I don't care. This is purely a personal connection in the way that she showed herself to me as a child. It has a great deal of meaning to me. So this is not for historical accuracy. I'm going to just put that out there right now. But this is my representation of Hel, 1L, or Hela, sometimes called. For those of you on my Patreon who were a part of the Hel the Forgotten Mother course, you guys have already heard about this statue and sort of the journey of finding a statue that was right for me in terms of her and the difficulties there, of which there were many. But yeah, so you guys already know that. But first, let me address this. So this is a necklace that I wear sometimes for Hel. I made it. I obviously did not make the pendant, but I did make the knots in the string. There are 9 knots in these. If you can see, like there's little knots put in. And the chain for me represents sort of a tip of the hat to her brother, Fenrir. But so this is a pendant that kind of reminded me of her finger. Let me see if I can get it against the black. So can you see how it's sort of curved like a bony finger, like pointing? So this is sort of my, I guess you could call it my priestessing necklace for Hel. And that's what this is. Okay. So now it sets on her. I have a general fondness for putting necklaces on statuary. It's a thing. I don't know. It's just something I do. But it feels naked without, adornments, man. So this statue, and I'll hold it up nice and close so you guys can see some detail. I love the folds. The detail on the folds are amazing. Beep. To say. Okay, so this statue, obviously, as I said, not a Norse statue. It is actually English/French. This is known as a weeper. And they're also called, I'm going to butcher this because it's French, but pleurant, I believe it's called. It's spelled Pleurant. Pleurant. I am not good at French, so yeah. But basically, it means weeper in English. And they were, let's see, I think the earliest recorded occurrence of it, like the type of them, is like 13th century. And they were put onto very elaborate tombstones and headstones and things like that. They were said to sort of attend and mourn or weep for the dead. Now, also considering throughout this time from 13th century forward, there have definitely been occasions where we could not publicly release our grief in an acceptable way. I think that's still a problem that we have today as a society even. It's part of our struggle right now. But taking that into consideration, there would be sort of, for instance, a widow who could not emotionally express herself. And so that's where this idea of having these people like attending or tending to the dead, mourning for the dead, vocalizing the importance of them in some form, whether crying or wailing or exulting or any of that, speaking for those who were living and the connection there to the dead. So it was very much a threshold position. I ran into this statue at my death midwifery class. So when I was certified as a death midwife, my instructor, Angie Buchanan, who I highly recommend looking up, she had an altar space set for the dead. And there were 3 of these, actually. There's 3 different sizes of them. Ultimately, one day I would love to have that. But we were instructed to bring something from or in honor of our beloved dead. So pictures, necklaces, watches, that kind of thing. And these statues sort of bared witness to that on that altar while the candles were burning, and it was burning the entire time we had classes, every time. So I remember when I first saw them, chills went right down my spine because it was exactly how I had seen hell when I was younger. Now, I didn't know that that was her at the time because I was very young. I just knew that it was this robed figure. And I remember, not so much being like scared of it. I was definitely weirded out because, like, why do you just keep standing at the foot of my bed? But when I asked, why so dark and like, why so serious? Why so spooky? Their response was just sort of, what better way to scare the scary things, right? And I have a blog post about that. I also actually, I have a spoken word on here that's called Death Claims Us at Birth. And that's all about that, like from when I was younger and she showed up and how all of that happened. So that's already a video that's on here. If you want to check that out, by all means, go ahead. Or if you want to check out the blog, it's on chrisashburn.com, there's a link underneath here and you can just click blog and it'll be in there. But yeah, so that will give you a little backstory there. But I always saw her as robed. Didn't see her face for a very, very long time. I was like mid-20s when I was actually able to see her face. And even then, her face is always shifting to me. But regardless, I don't want to get ahead of myself. So let's see here. So professional mourners, that's also something that I would love to talk about on here if you guys are curious, because I just realized, like, I don't think I've ever formally covered that topic. Maybe I did on my Patreon. I don't think so, though. I think I talked about threshold choirs on my Patreon. No, I definitely did that. But I did not talk about professional mourners. So that might be a video for later. Let me know below if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, so this statue has a lot of meaning to me. It was like icicles down my back when I saw them, but like in a good way. Like, put it this way, if the house was on fire and I could only grab a few things, like, this is one of them. What else can I say about her? So she's used as a representation on my altar, as a reminder. I do set her in front of the mirror. The mirror is also dedicated to hell. You guys can't see it, but off camera, there's like a bind rune that's painted up on the top, and there's a raven mask and raven wings mounted on the wall. Like, not real raven wings. They're like the costume ones. So like they're the size of the mask would be, like, accordingly. But yeah, so that is dedicated to hell, like that whole space. So it felt appropriate for her to be back there. And then the fact that she is reflected in the mirror speaks to the two-sidedness of her life and death. She is essentially a threshold in one body. So that makes a lot of sense. But also the fact that she is shrouded. And so there is a level of, I don't have to see you to honor you. I don't have to know the details of your life to know that you are worth mourning. That you belong, that you are, integral to this system in some form. That you are never alone. So I think that was such a touching and powerful part of the statue and the representation and the link to hell, because hell also, she, whether you're old or young, it doesn't matter to her. And what happens to those who they haven't died in battle and etc. There's always a place. There's always a place. And she's that place. So, yeah, it's a very sentimental, soul-touching, powerful item of mine. And so I can see why people are often very drawn to it, because energetically it's a beacon in this room to me. So yeah. Let's see, what else? Explained that. I got the Norse. I did the tombstones. I have notes down under here because I want to make sure that I don't forget anything. Deity representation doesn't always come the way you think it's going to come, right? I was thinking I'll get one of those, the carved, very Nordic style statues that are smaller and they're a lot more traditional, but none of them ever spoke to me. And I was at one point where I got a Halloween picture. Some of you guys may remember. I still have it. That was a holograph where you lean to one side and it's a skeletal face, you lean to the other and it's a woman. And I used that for a long time because that was the closest I could find to something in the fact that it physically would shift. And she's very shifting to me, very mist-like in that sense, right? Where she's hard to pin down sometimes. And she likes it that way. But you guys know this. You've heard me talk about this, I'm sure. Regardless, I had kind of just, all right, well, this is just what it's going to be now. And then I walked into that death midwifery class after my dad's death and wanting to work through my grief and the confusion and the waves of emotion that I was doing. And I was just kind of riding that wave and seeing where it took me, and it led me to her. So sometimes you don't have to have it figured out. It'll just come to you when the time's right. So yeah, that's who this is. I'm going to put the necklace back on her now. And I'm going to set her back there. And from now on, you guys are welcome to visually visit her. And say hello. But she will be back there. So now you know. Boop. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully the audio saved better this time. I'll talk to you later. Love your faces.